My grandfather died and left almost everything to me. Now my family's true colors are on full display. I'm 27, and I recently lost the only real role model I've ever had, my grandfather. The man who taught me how to change a tire, balance a ledger, treat people with respect, and, most importantly, never rely on anyone else to hand you success. Now that he's gone, I feel like I'm finally seeing everyone else in the family for who they really are. And let me tell you, it's not pretty. This all came to a head at the reception after my grandfather's funeral, where the whole family, his 3 children, my aunts and uncles, their kids, and a few longtime family friends, gathered at his home in a wealthy suburb just outside Raleigh, North Carolina. His estate? Massive. 3 homes, all worth over $1 million each. 2 thriving businesses that pull in a net of about $1 million a year apiece, and a combined $20 million in investments and bank accounts. Everyone knew he was wealthy, but they didn't know what he planned to do with that wealth. Except me. I knew, and I stayed quiet. The reception, what are you going to do with your share? The smell of deviled eggs and awkward grief hung thick in the air. We were all at my grandfather's estate, his primary home, a beautiful colonial with wraparound porches, stone columns, and immaculate landscaping. He still took care of himself at 82. And yet, his 3 kids, my Uncle Rick, 52, Aunt Sherry, 47, and Uncle Kyle, 45, weren't grieving. They were already talking money. Loudly. So, what are you going to do with your share? Rick asked Kyle, beer in hand, already loosening his tie like he was celebrating. I dunno, man. Maybe pay off some child support. Get a new ride. Kyle snorted. I'm not wasting it on some savings crap. Pop owed me for all the crap I've been through. Hell, I'm finally taking that river cruise through Europe, Sherry chimed in, her 3rd glass of wine in hand. Might even buy a summer place in Myrtle Beach. Something with a pool and a wet bar. They all laughed like they were at a birthday party, not a funeral. I sat quietly on the patio, sipping a glass of sweet tea and wondering if I'd misheard them. But then my cousin Emma came over and sat beside me. Emma's Sherry's daughter. She's 18 and, unlike her mom, she's actually decent. Smart. Sober. Got herself into a good business program at UNC with a partial scholarship. And despite being neglected most of her life, she turned out surprisingly well. Probably because she spent more time with Grandpa than her mom. She gave me a look. Can you believe them? She whispered. No, I muttered. And yes. Emma sighed. It's disgusting. He hasn't even been in the ground 12 hours. I nodded. I think it's about to get a lot worse. A few days later, the reading of the trust. 3 days later, we were all called back to the house. Grandpa's attorney, Mr. Powell, had invited the immediate family for what he called a trust distribution meeting. Now, I already knew what was coming. Grandpa had made me trustee of his living trust and walked me through everything the year before. But he also made it clear that the official allocations wouldn't be revealed until after his death, and that his attorney would be the one to do it. So we gathered. Rick showed up in a golf shirt and cargo shorts. Sherry wore a sundress that looked more like brunch date than family meeting. Kyle arrived late, of course, vaping and smelling like he'd just hotboxed his car. Mr. Powell stood in the front living room with a thick leather binder and cleared his throat. I want to begin by saying that a public reading of the will is something you mostly see in movies. In real life, trust terms are private, and beneficiaries receive notices. However, he said, glancing at me and then at the others, your father specifically instructed that his trust's primary provisions be read aloud to all of you together. Rick smirked. Knew he'd do it old school. Mr. Powell didn't smile. We'll begin with specific bequests. To Richard Allen Thompson, my eldest son, the attorney read, I leave a signed first edition copy of Small Business for Idiots, along with my hopes that he someday learns to read beyond the cover. Rick's face turned red. What the hell kind of joke is this? And just like that, I was back in Grandpa's study 2 years ago. Flashback, the toxic deal. Grandpa, are you seriously not going to help me buy in? Rick had whined, waving a glossy brochure in the air. It's a new housing development. High return potential. All the guys from my club are in. Grandpa looked up from his newspaper. That land used to be a chemical dump, Rick. There's benzene in the groundwater. Rick scoffed. No one will know until I've already flipped the investment. Grandpa's face darkened. And that's why I'm not giving you a dime. I don't invest in lies. Back in the living room, Mr. Powell turned a page. To Sherry Louise Thompson, my daughter, I leave a full year's worth of prepaid etiquette courses and weekly sessions with a dating coach who specializes in helping women with reputational challenges develop long-term relationships. Also included, a vintage chastity belt, circa 1905, as a reminder that some treasures are best kept locked. A stunned silence followed until Sherry sputtered, "Is this a joke?" Another memory rose. Flashback, the parking lot incident. It was last summer. Sherry had brought her latest fiancé hopeful to Grandpa's 4th of July barbecue. After 2 cocktails, she started loudly telling Grandpa that she and Derek wanted to take a romantic trip to Santorini and could use a little help. Grandpa smiled politely. "I'll think about it." But I remembered the week before. Grandpa had swung by one of his rental units late at night to handle a broken AC. On his way back, he stopped by a gas station right next to Murphy's Bar, a local dive where everyone knows the regular cheaters hang out. And there was Sherry in the parking lot, locking lips with a scruffy guy in a leather vest. He never brought it up at the barbecue. He didn't have to. Mr. Powell didn't flinch as the laughter died down and turned the page again. To Kyle Jonathan Thompson, my youngest son, he read, "I leave a 1-year premium subscription to jobhunterelite.com, complete with resume templates, interview coaching, and monthly virtual networking sessions. I hope, for once, you actually log in." Kyle squinted. "What the hell is Job Hunter Elite?" "It's a job search site," Emma whispered under her breath beside me. Kyle let out a snort. "I don't need some site to find a job. I've already got people who pay me under the table when I need it." Mr. Powell paused, but the damage was done. Everyone had heard him. Everyone always heard Kyle. And in that moment, another memory hit me. Flashback. My parole's up, so I quit. It was 6 months ago. I was dropping by Grandpa's for lunch and happened to be there when Kyle barged in through the front door. "Dad," Kyle said, "good news. I don't have to check in with my PO anymore. My parole's done." Grandpa didn't look up from his sandwich. "That's great." "So," Kyle continued, "I went ahead and quit my job at the warehouse. Honestly, it was crap work anyway. I figured I could take a break for a while." Grandpa finally looked up. "You're 45 years old." "Yeah, but I figured with parole behind me, I don't need to keep pretending to work. So can you, spot me more each month." Grandpa put down his fork. "Kyle, if you're man enough to quit your job, then you're man enough to live without my help. No job, no money." Kyle stared at him, dumbfounded. "You serious?" Grandpa just nodded. "Dead serious." Back in the living room, Kyle was visibly fuming, but Mr. Powell continued. "This next part, the moment everything changed. Now we move to the main allocation of the trust estate." Everyone leaned in. Rick adjusting his polo shirt, Sherry gulping her wine, Kyle squinting like the fine print was somehow printed on the wall. Mr. Powell read clearly and without hesitation. "The remainder of my trust estate, including real estate, businesses, investments, and bank holdings, shall be distributed as follows. To my grandson, Jacob Anthony Thompson, that's me, I leave 95% of the remaining trust estate, including full ownership and control of Thompson Rentals LLC and Thompson Storage Solutions Inc., as well as my primary residence and the mountain home in Blowing Rock." Rick's jaw dropped. "To my granddaughter, Emma Grace Thompson, I leave 5% of the remaining trust estate, along with the beach house in Emerald Isle, North Carolina, to be held in trust until her 40th birthday, unless released earlier at the discretion of her cousin and trustee, Jacob Thompson." The silence was deafening. Then Sherry let out a shriek. "Are you kidding me? That little tramp gets a house." Emma flinched beside me, and I instinctively placed a hand on her arm. "Don't call her that," I said firmly. "She's 18. Sherry shouted. "She hasn't done anything for this family." "She's done more than you," I said. Kyle shook his head. "Man, this is Bull's asterisk asterisk asterisk. You're telling me he left everything to the nerd and the babysitter?" Mr. Powell cleared his throat. "Mr. Thompson appointed Jacob as both trustee and primary beneficiary. His decision was intentional, thoroughly documented, and reflects years of careful planning. If anyone wishes to contest the trust, you're welcome to pursue legal action at your own expense." Rick stood up, red-faced. "This is not how it's supposed to be. I'm the eldest. I kept this family together after Mom died. I helped him with. With what? I interrupted. You mean the times he bailed you out of one shady deal after another? Or when you wanted him to invest in that housing scam over the old landfill? Rick glared at me. You're just a punk with a spreadsheet. No, I said calmly. I'm someone who showed up. I learned the businesses. I earned his trust. You didn't. Sherry was crying now, dramatic and loud. He was supposed to love all of us equally. Mr. Powell looked down at the binder. Mr. Thompson also wrote a note to accompany this portion. He pulled a single typed sheet from the back. In this life, you don't inherit love. You earn it. I gave all of you more than enough chances to stand on your own. Only Jacob and Emma ever tried. That's why they're the future of this family. The rest of you were never interested in building something. Just taking. He folded the paper and tucked it away. Meeting adjourned. The aftermath. Rick stormed out, cursing under his breath about lawsuits and ungrateful little pricks. Sherry stayed behind to scream at Emma for stealing her retirement, and Kyle kept muttering about how none of this would hold up in court. They're wrong, of course. The trust is airtight. Emma and I stayed in the living room after everyone left. She was still holding the binder with shaking hands. I didn't expect anything, she said softly. I mean, I didn't deserve anything. You did, I replied. He saw that. He saw you. She looked up at me. What do I even do with a beach house? I smiled. Live in it. Rent it. Sell it. Whatever you want. You won't need to worry about tuition either. I've already talked to Mr. Powell about creating an education trust for you. You're covered. She started crying then. Not the dramatic kind like her mom, but the quiet, overwhelmed tears of someone who's finally being seen. And once you're done with school, I added, if you still want it, one of the businesses is yours. Emma blinked. What? You've already been working at Thompson Storage. Grandpa saw it. I saw it. You started volunteering at 14, got your work permit at 16, and you've worked every weekend and summer since. You've done inventory, billing, even customer service. She laughed through her tears and cleaned out the rat traps in Unit 22. Exactly, I said. You've earned it. I'm not just giving it to you. But if you want it, really want it, it'll be yours when you're ready. She hugged me then. Tight. The way she used to hug Grandpa. Final thoughts. Everyone always assumed Grandpa would split everything 3 ways. Even me once. But he didn't. He didn't believe in equal. He believed in earned. And the truth is, most of this family treated him like an ATM. The only 2 people who ever treated him like a person were me and Emma. He noticed. And now, we're the ones carrying his legacy forward. If you've ever wondered why your elderly parents or grandparents still keep working, still keep their estates private, still seem wary of their own children, maybe it's not paranoia. Maybe they're just waiting to see who shows up for them when there's nothing left to gain. Because in the end, how you treat people when they owe you nothing says everything.
This story was fictional, but it highlights some of the chaos that can happen in actual estates. If you want to plan your estate the right way, get your free ebook at www.estateplanningebook.com.